So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being patient. And good evening, Neerja ji, and welcome to the Vasant Vihar Club, uh, and welcome to the book club at the Vasant Vihar Club. A journalist and a political commentator for over 3 decades, contributing editor, Indian Express, enjoy writing about the great Nautanki called Indian politics. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Twitter, or now it's called the X. That's the profile of our distinguished guest, Neerja Chowdhury. Elections, like I mentioned earlier. She is here with us today as the next few days she's going to be very busy as the results of the state elections are announced. Perhaps she can give us a brief preview of what she thinks will happen. That's something where, if you would like to comment on. Is it the Prime Minister who plays the decisive role in running a country, or is it a group of ministers? That insight and stories that have shaped this giant country, India, is something which we are all fascinated about and we want to hear about. So I'm quickly going to get off. Let me just introduce Gayatri Srivastava. She is in conversation with the author. Gayatri is a media academic, a podcaster, an author, and the host of Gupshup with Gayatri, which is an online chat show featuring women achievers. She has taught journalism at some of India's leading journalism schools, including Xavier's Institute of Communication, the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and LSR New Delhi. The movie Spider-Man has a wonderful and an insightful phrase: with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sure everybody has heard of this. With great power comes great responsibility. As a veteran journalist, Neerja ji, you have had the insight into the workings of the Indian political class for more than 4 decades. Which prime minister, or do all the prime ministers you have written about fit this bill? I would like you to perhaps start the evening by talking a little bit about that with great power comes great responsibility.
So it's marvelous to be here. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to this evening. I hope it will be interactive, so I can answer any of the questions that you would like me to answer. You know, normally, most of the meetings that I've gone to, I'm asked, you frame the question a little differently. Who do you think is the best prime minister? Who do you think is the least corrupt? वही नाक पकड़ते हैं इस साइड से या सीधा, it doesn't matter. They want to know who rate the prime minister. And I must be honest when I say, after writing this book, I find it even more difficult to tell you who's the best prime minister. Because each one of them has had very good things that they have done, and each one of them have also represented the dark underbelly of Indian politics. So it's very difficult. Then people ask me, you know, who's interesting, or there I can give an honest answer. I find Indira Gandhi the most fascinating. She's the one prime minister I did not cover. I wrote about the emergency. I cut my teeth in journalism in Himmat Weekly, which used to come out from Bombay, edited by Rajmohan Gandhi. That's where I started my journalistic stint. And that was the time of the emergency when Himmat fought the press censorship. So I saw that side of Indira Gandhi, the dictator Indira Gandhi. I read about the Durga Indira Gandhi earlier, who created this new nation of Bangladesh and changed geopolitical realities. But I find Indira Gandhi very, very fascinating as we have gone on. And I must tell you this, uh, just about a little over a month ago, I was in a village in Maharashtra, Satara district, and with a group of younger women, college going, 16, 17, 18, like that age. And whenever I go travel and meet with them, because I've written this book, I ask them, have you heard of this prime minister, this prime minister? This is a very fascinating exercise for me. Who they have heard about and who they've not heard about at all. Like Vishwanath Pratap Singh, not one gathering have I gone to where people have heard. Younger people I'm talking, not older people. Even those belonging to the OBCs who have been beneficiaries of his Mandal decision, they have not heard his name. But of course, Nehru they've heard of, Shastri all of them have heard of, younger people. That's also interesting. Indira Gandhi they've heard of, Rajiv Gandhi they've heard of, VP Singh no, Narasimha Rao some have heard of, Devagowda no, Gujral no, Chandrasekhar no, Vajpayee yes, yes, yes. Manmohan Singh yes, because he's of course a recent Prime Minister, Modi of course yes. So I asked them who is this group of younger girls, I asked them, who is your most favorite Prime Minister? About 20 of them in one voice, Indira Gandhi. I was really taken aback. Now, maybe because they were girls, maybe because I'm a woman, I'm more fascinated. How did she get the better of her opponents? In the country, outside the country, that's a fascinating story. But I must tell you, I must start with this, and I will give it to Gayatri before just continuing. I was thinking today, again people ask me, what made you write this book, How Prime Ministers Decide? And the seed of the idea came to me actually in 1999. And it was a story I heard about Indira Gandhi, which made me think that prime ministers are human, decisions can be very complex. And it was a member of the Mohan Meakin family who run this liquor company, who were very close to Indira Gandhi in the 60s and 70s. And one of them I met in Ambika Soni's house. I used to cover the Congress party. And we were talking and he told me of this story, how after Indira Gandhi returned to power in 1980 with a record number of seats, and she had been temple going all of 1977 and 80. She'd turned very, very religious. There was no major temple that she'd not gone to during that period. Partly because she feared for Sanjay, that he may be killed, he may be hurt, they may do him damage, the Janta government. And partly also, I think she used it politically because to Hinduize her politics, and also to offset the loss of Muslim support that had left the party in 1977 elections. So these, Chamunda Devi temple was one that she believed in. Every month she would send money for the temple and get prasad back. And this gentleman told me that after she came to power, he told her, Madam, you have to go to Chamunda. So she said, yes, I have to go to Chamunda. But I will do it 4 or 5 months later. So then she sent word to him saying, make arrangements, I will go there on June 22. And the chief minister was there, the entire entourage was there, and these people from Mohan Meakin family were there. And then suddenly word comes that she is not going to come. And the Pandit is furious. He said, Ma forgives ordinary mortals when they don't come. Ma does not forgive rulers when they give the temple a go by. So they all did the puja and did everything. On 23rd morning, they left. And 50 kilometers down, they get the news that Sanjay Gandhi's plane had crashed. So they rushed to Delhi. Sanjay Gandhi had got a new plane, as was his wont, was doing dangerous acrobatics with it, and the plane had crashed. Those of us who are older will remember this very tragic incident. So they rushed to Delhi, reached there at 2:30 a.m., went to the house, Prime Minister's house, and Indira Gandhi was sitting by Sanjay's body. She immediately got up and came to them and asked, "Is it because I did not go to Chamunda?" She went to Chamunda in December. And the same Pandit's hand shook as he performed the rituals. Because Indira Gandhi did everything to perfection. All the mudras, matha tekna, all that had to be done was just done to perfection. And she just wept and wept and wept. And then she went out and she planted trees because this was one of the 5-point programs of Sanjay. And that evening when she was in Delhi at a function, she called Rajiv Gandhi to the stage and introduced him to the gathering. Now, when I heard this story, I thought, this is another side of a ruler. She was superstitious, she used it for her politics, she was a mother, so many things woven, because Sanjay, and I have examined this in the book, in the Indira Gandhi chapter, how she bounced back to power in only 36 months. And no ruler in recent history had done that. Not Churchill, not Napoleon, not any of the others. And how did she do that? Sanjay Gandhi, who was responsible for her defeat because of the excesses of the emergency, 1977, she was routed all over North India, was responsible for her comeback in 1980. And Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, everything. How they utilized that, how they utilized the frailties of the Janata government, planning, all that, is a fascinating story in real politics. And she was a master of it, who understood power and the nature of power. So that is what I have examined. Sorry that I've taken it's a long answer to a brief question. Sorry, I'll end here.
It's a somber story to start the evening with. But the first question, how did you decide these 6 in the book that you've written out of the 14, including Nanda, the 15 prime ministers? Everyone wants to know, how did you decide on these 6?
That was quite difficult because I knew I couldn't do 14 in one book. So then I stuck to the thumb rule of those prime ministers who'd completed their term.
But
there were 2 exceptions.
But yes.
There were actually 3 exceptions, but I'll come to the
VP
third
Singh
one.
was
The
the-
2 exceptions immediately were Jawaharlal Nehru, and I felt my political consciousness started after Nehru. So I decided, even though he built modern India and its institutions and ruled for 17 years, I decided whatever I did will be a cut and paste job. So I decided to leave that out. I decided to include Vishwanath Pratap Singh because I felt he changed India politically forever. And that change continues till today, even though he ruled only for 11 months. Now, I had decided to include Modi.
The obvious question.
The obvious question. Because he's brought about a paradigm shift in Indian politics. And I even did a draft. But I felt, and people who critiqued it said that it would be my most halka chapter.
And why would that be?
Because, I knew myself it was work in progress. I knew I didn't have the benefit of hindsight, as with the other prime ministers, but more important than these two factors, I did not have the kind of information about the inner goings on that led to the decisions. I had some information, and I realized that people around the prime minister, close to the prime minister, who get a ringside view, will not talk to me freely as long as the prime minister is an incumbent. Because in the case of others, they had talked to me after the prime minister demitted office. And those who were willing to talk to me were not willing to be named. I have named my sources.
Yeah, it's very
all
detailed.
along.
Very detailed.
And I have attributed it to specific people. And some of them are, of course, not alive. But those who are alive, I sent to them the transcripts of what I was using. As from them have I got you accurately. So I felt it would not do justice.
So that's the next book you'll be writing.
So I thought it's for the future.
Anyway, so coming back, coming back to Indira Gandhi, since we started off with Indira Gandhi, when you're talking about the decisions, it's a very unusual decision you've taken to explore. It's not the liberation of Bangladesh, it's about her bouncing back to power after the emergency. And you were fascinated because, like you've said, no one from Churchill or Napoleon has come back, and the story you just mentioned. And I also found very fascinating what he wrote to her about using silence as a weapon, Indira Gandhi. There's a very interesting comment. I quoted it to the audience before. Over the years, she had learned to use silence as a tool she could put to good use. So for Mrs. Gandhi, silence was a tool. But when we come later to say someone like Dr. Manmohan Singh, his silence was seen as a sign of weakness. How do you compare the silence of both those prime ministers?
Yes, Indira Gandhi would, even initially when she was called the Gungi Gudiya, and didn't speak in parliament, this was a comment made about her by Lohiya, Ram Manohar Lohiya. She would, when people would go to see her, she would often doodle, you will remember this maybe, she would often doodle on the pad before her. So the person did not know what she thought. She got a measure of the person, but they did not know whether she meant yes or no. So that she used to her advantage. Narasimha Rao also said, once, what has been the success? What has been the secret of your success for running a coalition? Because he did not have a majority to begin with. It's only later that he broke other parties and the Congress became a majority. So he said, "Itni der se muh jo band rakha hai." Manmohan Singh's silence, you're absolutely right, was not an advantage. And somewhere people felt that he was not, his silence was because of weakness, not out of strength or strategy. And that is why in the second term, Moni Baba and what his critics used to say about him. By the way, I must tell you that when I went to present the book to him, he was most happy about the title of his chapter.
Okay.
He said he'd read it, and the underrated prime minister who triumphed. He was very happy with that title.
So on the subject of Manmohan Singh, you've spoken about the Indo-US civil nuclear deal as the policy that you've covered him under. I mean, the obvious one would be to go with maybe economic liberalization. Again, a very unusual choice. And why this choice?
Because economic liberalization was Narasimha Rao's decision. He was the prime minister even before he'd taken over. As PM, he had to make the decision to go to IMF and World Bank. Something that had the balance of payment crisis was so acute So Manmohan Singh had just become finance minister. In fact, I've written that initial weeks he was very diffident. As finance minister. All the decisions were taken by Narasimha Rao, even though he was not an economist. Manmohan Singh's, this is the one decision where the real Manmohan Singh, I feel, came to the fore. He had a killer instinct. He also used Sam Dam Dandabhet to the hilt. And the Indo-US nuclear agreement, the deal, went through again in 3 years, 39 months. He did not give up. Sonia Gandhi was opposed to it to begin with. The left parties that propped his government there, they were opposed to it. They threatened to withdraw support. They withdrew support. He managed to get on board the Samajwadi Party, which was opposed to the deal to begin with. He got Amar Singh, who, some of you who know him, was, he hated to be called a fixer, but he was a fixer, a class by himself, who not only wanted to be a fixer here, but eyed, and was close to the Clintons, the world stage, to move on. So he managed to get Amar Singh on board, through Amar Singh, Mulayam Singh on board, but he did not give up. And of course, he had behind him the support of the most powerful man in the world, the US President George Bush. And they had a rare chemistry going between them. Yeah. Of course, chemistries are not responsible for agreements, but in this case, they really smoothened the way when there were impediments, and there were many. So this decision of Manmohan Singh to stay the course showed a very different side of the then Prime Minister. And sometimes I feel, of course, it was, for us, it led to nuclear commerce after the embargoes, the end of nuclear apartheid for India. For America, it meant, propping up India as a countervailing force to China. But somewhere, all these factors were there, but somewhere, Manmohan Singh wanted to show, I am my own man. And through this decision, he was able to do that.
Yeah. So it was the start of a very close partnership between India and US. That's how he was.
Strategic relationship, which is going ahead, yes.
Yeah.
Though Vajpayee is not just start, the Vajpayee also started this process. Even Narasimha Rao, the initial, he reached out to, and America reached out to us. So,
yeah. So, going on to Vajpayee then, the pacifist poet who was actually opposed to testing of nuclear devices, to nuclear weapons, and ultimately ended up being the prime minister on whose watch the nuclear device was detonated. That's a great trajectory for him too.
Yeah. Vajpayee was a very, we all know, very colorful personality, and of course he would say, I did not, he wanted to be a poet, I should have been a poet. Of course, he wrote a lot of poems, and in 50s he wrote this poem, Hiroshima, which showed him as a nuclear dove. The pain of Hiroshima because of nuclear weapons. Then 60s, he spoke in parliament saying, when China tested its nuclear bomb, and he said the only answer to an atom bomb is an atom bomb. So he was very hawkish. 70s, when he became foreign minister under Morarji Desai, he was a dove. He actually voted in the Committee on Political Affairs against testing, when Morarji was also against it, because he wanted to improve relations with Pakistan, and he didn't want to provoke them, whatever his reasons, which are outlined. And then in 1998, he is the one who goes on to test the weapon. Of course, everything had been readied by Narasimha Rao. He was 3 days away from it. But it was Vajpayee and Narasimha Rao, even when he was there for 13 days, Narasimha Rao saw him and said, everything is ready, you go ahead and do it.
Why didn't Narasimha Rao go ahead? Because of the pressure from Bill Clinton?
Because the information leaked to the Americans, and he's felt, though he strung along the scientists till the end, हो सकता है, be ready. But he decided against it. Some people, of course, felt that he himself leaked things to the American, he set the scene for information to be leaked because he'd made up his mind not to do
Not
it.
to test. Not to test.
And they were all afraid of sanctions. Even Vajpayee, when he deliberated with Brajesh Mishra, his principal secretary and national security advisor, sanctions, how are we going to cope with them? And maybe Narasimha Rao also would have thought, 6 months, they were ready in 95 December, 5 months to elections, whether that was a wise thing to do or, anyway, he got cold feet.
From 95 to when it was tested in 99 to the civil Indo-US civil nuclear deal in 2005. Yeah, it was a long journey for India's nuclear program. You've also called Narasimha Rao the prime minister who refused to decide. And this is obviously in connection with what he did or didn't do when the Babri Masjid was being demolished.
I start the chapter with a very interesting story, I would say, of 4 journalists meeting Narasimha Rao 3 days after the demolition of the Babri Masjid on December 6, 1992. You remember the run-up to it, the Kar Seva had been announced. First there was dialogue that he initiated. Lai Chandrasekhar almost came to a breakthrough. And so also Narasimha Rao. He called the sons and he would sit on the floor and recite shlokas to them. They were wowed by him. Then he would get the Muslim clerics and speak to them in Farsi. He was proficient in many, many languages. 10 certainly, some people say many more. And they were making progress, and suddenly the Vishwa Hindu Parishad decided to announce the Kar Seva on December 6th. An earlier Kar Seva, Narasimha Rao dealt with, by reaching out to the BJP leaders and so on. But anyway, this Kar Seva was announced. His OSG, R.K. Khandedkar, who was very close to the RSS, had said to me that that day, the day they announced the Kar Seva, Rao Saab knew he would not be able to save the mosque. That was an interesting comment. Then he tried many things, essentially as alibis. In case this happens, then somebody else can take the responsibility also. The governor, the National Integration Council, and so on. And then, when these 4 journalists saw him, they said to him, "We heard you were doing puja and you were sleeping." There was the buzz in Delhi that day that the Prime Minister was sleeping and doing puja while the mosque was being brought down. Now, this group of journalists was led by Nikhil Chakravarti, an eminent editor of Mainstream, who was also a close friend of Narasimha Rao. So Rao was provoked to say, Dada used to call Nikhil Chakravarti Dada, "Do you think I don't know Rajniti? I was born in Rajniti, in politics. I allowed it to happen." Yeah. And then to something to the effect, he said it was a festering sore, which would go away and which had fueled the politics of BJP, would be removed. And he gave that as the reason. So Narasimha Rao was known for he said once, or many times in fact, a non-decision is also a decision. But if you look at Narasimha Rao closely, his decision making, the non-decision, so to speak, was only when he did not want to decide. He was very decisive. When he was confronted with his balance of payment crisis, as I say, on the eve of, the bureaucrats went to brief him, on the eve of him being sworn in, he was like this. In minutes he'd made the decision. devaluation of the rupee, all the difficult decisions, he made them in minutes.
Yeah.
So when he didn't want to decide, it was a non-decision, dithering.
Yeah.
So it was also, I think, a strategy.
Yeah.
Narasimha Rao was really one of those prime ministers, I think also underrated.
Yeah.
Very interestingly, the launch of my book in August, Sharad Pawar was also part of that panel. Rajdeep Sardesai was anchoring the discussion, asked the panelists, who do you think is the best prime minister? But others ask and I don't answer. Who do you think is the best prime minister? Pawar didn't take a minute to say Narasimha Rao. Publicly, he said Narasimha Rao. And it is true, he took decisions, he calmed down the temperatures. Mandal, Mandir, the country was aflame when he took over. Economic crisis, he held elections in Punjab, prepared for elections in Kashmir. And then, but the one sore thumb thing that sticks out, the demolition of the Babri Masjid, which put the Mandir issue on the back burner during his term. The issue was not, it didn't come to the fore. Congress won elections 11 months after the demolition in northern states, but hurt the Muslim psyche in a way which was irreparable, that the Indian state and the Indian constitution could not protect them or their rights. And I think gave Hindu nationalism a fillip that few other decisions, maybe Rajiv Gandhi's decision to open the locks also did. But it gave a fillip to Hindu nationalism in a very major way.
Yeah. So you've quoted him in the book as saying, "जो हुआ वो ठीक हुआ, मैंने इसलिए होने दिया कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मंदिर की राजनीति हमेशा के लिए खत्म हो जाए." This is what you've quoted him as saying.
That's right. That's what he said.
Yeah. Absolutely. And to think he had been denied a Lok Sabha ticket, but for Rajiv Gandhi's assassination and the flow of events, I mean, he ended up becoming.
Most of our prime ministers have actually been accidental prime ministers. He was going to join a seminary in the south. Rajiv Gandhi had denied him a ticket. He packed up his bags. He sent half his books to Hyderabad. And then suddenly Rajiv Gandhi is assassinated. And a month later, he's sworn in as the Prime Minister of India. Rajiv Gandhi, completely accidental. Morning he's campaigning in West Bengal. 7 o'clock in the evening is the Prime Minister of India. Indira Gandhi's assassination. So, I think if you look at Manmohan Singh is an accidental prime minister. Of course, a book has been written on him, which is, yeah. So
now let's discuss Rajiv Gandhi, since you brought him up. You've named the chapter as "The Secular Prime Minister Who Undermined Secularism." It's about unlocking, removing the locks from the Babri Masjid. And you've also detailed how it was actually the Shah Bano case, how they upturned the decision, and then to appease the Hindus is why this decision was taken, and the politics with Mr. Arun Nehru.
how many of you remember the Shah Bano case? Do people remember at all? Some people do, but most don't actually. Yeah. This was a judgment, the like of which is happening. Hundreds of these judgments must be coming in India every day. This is to give maintenance to a divorced woman, Muslim woman, 5 children, old Muslim woman who's thrown out by her husband. Husband promises her 200 rupees a month, goes back on that promise, and she's destitute, and she moves the Criminal Procedure Code, which has a provision to help destitutes. It can be a woman, it can be an old person, anybody. And the court gives her 25 rupees a month. And the Muslim community is up in arms because they see it as an interference in their personal law. The court also makes an observation which upsets the community, that we should move towards having a uniform civil code. These issues have not died down. Decades later, we are confronted with the very same issues. What Mandal started, uniform civil code, anyway. So they hit the streets. Muslims come out in very large numbers. Initially, Rajiv Gandhi is for the judgment. He was a progressive, forward-looking young man, seen as the hope of India, taking major decisions. Assam Accord, Punjab Accord, Mizoram Accord, you know, all border states of India where problems had gone on. Anti-defection law within months of coming, reducing the voting age, setting up technology missions. You know, the mobile telephones that we have followed, the start was made by Rajiv Gandhi. But when it came to handling caste and religion, community, that's where he floundered. He was not in touch with the ground realities of India, the hold that these factors had on the Indian psyche. So when initially, he asked Arif Muhammad Khan to defend it in parliament. Arif defended it in parliament. And within weeks, he decided to go back because the Muslims within the government, senior leaders of the party who didn't want to lose the Muslim support, the traditional Muslim support for the Congress party. So that opposition, and he decided to bring a bill called Muslim Women Bill. It's a whole long description. And to undo the application of the provision to Muslim women. So he thought Musalman to khush ho jayega, Musalman khush ho gaya, hua, and soon you had the Hindus, up in arms and called all this appeasement of the Muslims. So he thought, let me placate the Hindus, and he was advised by Arun Nehru, his cousin, who was in the initial months very powerful and an advisor. And he said to him that if you open the locks at the Ram Janmabhoomi, which had been put there in 1950, then the Hindus will get darshan. And anyway, the movement had been on, Vishwa Hindu Parishad's movement to open those locks. Then Hindus will be pleased. So things will be fine. So he opened the locks. He got the locks open through the judicial this thing. That also I've documented how it's happened. And then the Muslims were unhappy. And I remember touring Uttar Pradesh in those, 1st of February 1986, this happened, the opening of the locks. In the next 2 months, I remember going around. And the communal hatred and clashes that it led to. Anyway, to cut the long story short, Rajiv Gandhi, unprecedented number of Lok Sabha seats, never clocked by anybody, not even by his grandfather Nehru. 414 Lok Sabha seats he had. Came down to 197 in the 1989 elections. Of course, several things happened after that. But as I say, he fell between two stools. He neither got the Muslims nor got the Hindus. And so I said Rajiv Gandhi, very sincere, well-meaning, wanted to take India into the 21st century, but was politically naive. Politically naive. Many people felt if he'd come for the second time, he would have been different. But destiny did not allow that.
So, digressing here a bit, you've mentioned in the book that it was actually a private member's bill that actually led to the overturning of the Shah Bano case. There was a private member's bill by Mr. G.M. Banatwala. Do you think there's a situation, something like that can happen in India today, that a private member's bill...
It wasn't private. He brought in a private member's bill.
And ultimately, the chain of events...
And then it led to events that, led to the enactment of the Muslim Women Bill. But, our politics, if you look at it, hinges on such little things. A judgment in the case of Shah Banu, पूरा राजीव गांधी का term it devoured. A judgment against Indira Gandhi in 1975, disqualifying her from parliament, a case filed by Raj Narayan, and it led to the emergency and then all that followed. So sometimes, you know, big doors swing on little hinges, but our politics has been full of these little hinges.
What I wanted to ask was, do you think in today's day, a member of the ruling party can bring in a private member's bill, which can, you know, lead to such an event, chain of events that, or,
Ruling party, I doubt it.
yeah, I thought so too.
They would be careful.
Let's move on now to VP Singh, whom we've mentioned a lot of times. You call him the crafty prime minister who remade Indian politics. He was in power for only 11 months. He started off being a confidant of the Gandhi family, rebelled, became prime minister, government was brought down, but he introduced the Mandal Commission reforms, the reservation, 27% reservation for the OBCs. And that was actually, it happened before the Rath Yatra. The Mandal Commission, Mandal and Kamandal were closely intertwined.
You know, people say that Mandir was a response to Mandal. I don't know whether you've heard this. That the BJP went in for Mandir because of Vishwanath Pratap Singh's Mandal decision. Mandal decision kya tha? Mandal decision, it was a report. Again, a very small report gathering dust somewhere in a government office. It had been given, the Mandal Commission was set up by Morarji Desai. The report was given during Indira Gandhi's time. She put it on the back burner. Sometime, you know, whenever she wanted to, she could pull it out for gain. Because she had realized the importance of the empowerment of the OBCs in the South, which had brought Congress to power. And then it was there. Now, VP Singh's party and government had a lot of OBCs. And there was pressure, ki karo, karo. VP Singh himself, to begin, was not for Mandal. When Devi Lal broke away, and Devi Lal was his deputy prime minister, there were a lot of shenanigans. And VP's government was beleaguered. He decided to bring out the Mandal report and to enact it. Because he knew Devi Lal would not be able to counter. With all the OBC MPs have to support him. So he announced it in Parliament, what he had not banked on. And he himself said that. He said, I had expected opposition. I had expected opposition even at the village level. What I had not expected was emulation by young people. You know, there was this Rajiv Goswami who burnt himself in All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He was saved, but then he died some years later. But 200 students all over India immolated themselves to death. You know, there was so much, suddenly the BJP felt our base was disappearing. And the OBCs felt they had to hang on to their vote bank. So it created a kind of a conflict. And BJP, of course, withdrew his support to his government, and his government went. He had hoped OBC MPs across parties, including the Congress, will come to his support, which did not happen. But Mandal was a genie out of the bottle. You could never put it back again. And today, BJP is not just Mandir. BJP is Mandal plus Mandir. The vote base of Narendra Modi is OBCs as well as others, particularly the extremely backward amongst them. And the Congress party is playing the Mandal card again. When they call for a caste census across the country, Bihar has gone in for a caste census. They have discovered 65% of the population is OBC. 37% of these are extremely backward. And they want proportional representation. Yesterday, very interesting picture in the Indian Express today of an event in yesterday, which is unveiling a statue of VP Singh in Chennai.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And I thought, and there is Stalin, there is Akhilesh Yadav,
Yeah.
there is VP Singh's family, of course. And I thought to myself this morning, at last somebody's owned VP Singh. He is the Mandal Messiah, the backward, the voice of the backward classes. And they are going to use this card to the hilt. And Stalin has talked about proportional representation. If in Bihar they say 65% हम हैं, हमको 27% मिलता है, why? So this is could be a major issue that the opposition combined India 28-party alliance, I think will play in the 2024 election. Whether they can counter Narendra Modi with it, that remains to be seen.
This is the conversation this time around was started by Nitish Kumar.
That's
in
right.
Bihar, yeah.
That's right.
But I also saw the visual of VP Singh statue in Chennai
That's right.
without a Congress presence, which says a lot.
Yes.
So I think we've covered all
But
the...
Rahul Gandhi has also owned Mandal when he's talking about OBC empowerment. Traditionally, the vote bank of the Congress in North India, South has been different, has been Brahmin, upper caste, Dalits and Muslims. Now they're talking about OBCs. So that's an interesting one.
I think we've discussed the 6 prime ministers, so we can come to Sanjana's question now. Do you want to make a forecast for the 3rd of December? What's going to happen in the assembly polls? This is what she was alluding to.
I would say, you all know, I think we are all guessing. I would say Chhattisgarh, I went there. Chhattisgarh seems clear for the Congress. Madhya Pradesh, a takkar, but I think Congress will get through. This is my own feeling. Telangana is the most exciting. The Congress is reviving by the day. About 9 months ago, I went to Telangana and people were saying 50-50 BJP versus BRS. Congress kahin thi nahi. Log naam hi nahi lete the. And suddenly it became Congress versus BRS. BRS, there's a lot of anti-incumbency. But whether the Congress can actually cover that kind of a lap from last time. Last time they had 3 Lok Sabha seats, I remember, in 2019 from Telangana. So that is the thing, but it is a real takkar. It could go either way. Rajasthan, Gehlot, again, about a year ago, their own internal survey said, 20-25. They're losing complete wipeout. Today, people don't say that. Again, when I went there, people say, and this is BJP people who are saying, 75-80 to le jayenge, 75 to 80 to le jayenge. Because with his social welfare schemes, he's brought the party into a fighting mode. But my own judgment is, I don't think.
50-50 is
nahi,
what?
wahan mujhe lagta hai, BJP will get through. Because, it's also very polarized. What is his name? This Taylor was killed. Kanhaiya in Udaipur. I felt that day the election was over. Of course, there are problems. Vasundhara Raje is unhappy. They don't have a clear face. Here you have a strong leader. That's the other extraordinary thing in this election, I must say. BJP does not have clear leaders in any of the states. Whereas they attack the Congress for not having a leader in the national scene. They have a Modi, but no one here. In the state elections, they have leaders, but BJP has not declared leaders. So it's Modi's chehra campaigning, but they don't have leaders. And here, Congress has got very strong leadership. in the sense of Gehlot, uh, Kamal Nath, Bhupesh Baghel has done very well. It's been I would call a meteoric rise of Baghel, another leader. So BJP also has many leaders, but they've chosen, had they projected Vasundhara Raje Scindia, Shivraj Chauhan again, Raman Singh again, it would have, given them advantage. But obviously, the plan is to bring new leadership. Agar jeette bhi hai na, I don't think these three will become CMs. So I think the plan is to create a new leadership in the states if they win. So Mizoram is anybody's guess.
Yeah. We'll take audience questions now. Yes. You have a mic?
Your view on Rahul Gandhi. Yeah, let's have a
Fine. Now you're going beyond the book, yeah? Yeah. My view on Rahul, by the way, I must mention that Rahul Gandhi was responsible for his mother not becoming prime minister in 2004. And I have documented this episode where he had told her, if you accept to be prime minister, she was elected as a parliamentary party leader of the Congress, of the UPA, I will do something drastic to myself. And the mother in her overpowered the politician and she turned it down, and that's how Manmohan Singh became prime minister. But Rahul Gandhi, well-meaning, very sincere. His Bharat Jodo Yatra has changed his image. I saw it in Maharashtra. Courageous also in the way he takes on the other side, the ruling side, but has not clicked as a prime ministerial face. मैं जहाँ भी गई हूँ ना, आज in the last sort of month, I asked people, what do you think of Rahul Gandhi? Yeah. As PM, they don't see him. That is the way it is today. Tomorrow kya hoga? We don't know.
Neerja ji, I quote from your book, Modi's decision about demonetization, dismantling of Article 370 deserved to be put under microscope. Please elaborate and give your personal views also.
Modi's, these are major decisions by Modi. And they certainly deserve, how did they happen? Because they were big decisions. He wanted to finish black money. Money almost, 99.6, whatever the RBI said, percent came back. And if you count the money in the neighboring, countries in the subcontinent, it would mean entire money came back. So was it thought through? It was not thought through because they had 250 notifications. After that, changing something or the other. So it needed to, who advised him? How was it done? Why did he go in for it? Was it a political decision? By the way, it paid them handsome dividends in Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh election that followed was one on demonetization because again, when I travel, people used to say, हाँ हमको तकलीफ हुई पर अमीरों को ठोका बहुत अच्छा किया अमीरों को ठोका so that political dividend था but it needed to be put under the scanner.
Clearly mentioned these are the controversial decisions. In the book you clearly mentioned these are the controversial decisions of
So in the future I hope I will be able to do this.
Okay. Can you throw some light on the role of extra constitutional authorities in prime ministerial decision making?
Where is this?
We know
Who's
about
speaking?
Sanjay Gandhi in 19...
Can you be a bit loud?
Yeah.
Clear and loud.
Could you please throw some light on the role of extra constitutional authorities in prime ministerial decision making? We have the example of Sanjay Gandhi during the emergency and Nagpur presently. So what kind of influence do they play in making critical decisions? What kind of role do they play?
You're absolutely right. There are influences on the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is, Gujral used to say this. Even a Prime Minister of a coalition government, weak as he was, is still very powerful. And Prime Ministers rely not necessarily on their cabinet ministers around them. They tend to rely on people they trust, and they need not be in the system. You're absolutely right. Of course, Indira Gandhi was grooming Sanjay Gandhi. That was also part of the story. But he had enormous power during the emergency to do or undo anything. And we know the consequences of all that. Certainly, yes, you can say, even in Manmohan Singh's time, the BJP used to say the National Advisory Council, which makes the decision. Sonia Gandhi headed it. Then those decisions became laws. They did have the authority to do that, though it was an advisory body. Also, you're right, RSS's links, they are very open now. There was a time when they were just supposed to be cultural and would say that, but today they are playing a role that's much bigger, much, much bigger. Though under Modi, the RSS's power may not be what it was earlier.
Then one very nagging question in many of our minds. Dr. Manmohan Singh was supposed to be the most honest and the most learned Prime Minister. And to the best of my memory, no press ever thought that BJP would crown him. How did it happen? And how did the media not get it?
And no press thought that BJP will come? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think everybody said that at least Dr. Manmohan Singh government would get 100 more MPs than RBJ.
I don't remember that being the case. Because in 2014 early, after Modi took over in campaigning, you see, remember, 2004. Oh, 2004, so he came after the election. He was chosen after the election. And it was more Sonia Gandhi who led. And they were very surprised to win, if you recall that. You are talking about India shining. Oh, you're talking about India shining. Yeah, I think there was a hype. Everybody thought BJP will come. That's absolutely right. Pramod Mahajan has sold that line to everybody that it was coming back. The media bought that line. I absolutely agree with you. Everybody thought that BJP was coming. But remember, it's a difference of 8 MPs. 8 MPs थे. मान लो 4 इधर हो जाते या 5 इधर हो जाते, game would have been different. Sorry. What was the question?
Nobody in 2004 thought that BJP would be coming, trouncing Dr. Manmohan.
Trouncing Manmohan Singh nahi tha. Trouncing, nobody thought BJP would not come. That's what you're saying. Yes, that's correct. Everybody thought BJP would come.
My question is, since the book is about decision making, how do they make decisions? So, in your opinion, who was the best decision maker in terms of using the methodology or following, and ultimately coming up with the right decision? It's a difficult question, I think, but what is your opinion?
Methodology. I guess you're talking about the widest possible consultation that the Prime Minister made in decision making. As I said earlier, the people the Prime Ministers rely on are not necessarily within the system. Of course, there is a principle like Indira Gandhi, in what I think were her golden years, where she did the best, between 67 and 73, relied on P.N. Huxer. She got him in as a principal secretary. And the abolition of privy purses, the nationalization of banks, Garibi Hatao slogan, how to move in Bangladesh, were all ideas of P.N. Huxer. He was not just the implementer. So he was a very powerful principal secretary who influenced the prime minister during those years, before Sanjay came on the scene. Then it was Sanjay. Brajesh Mishra, I think, was the most powerful bureaucrat India has ever had. He was the principal secretary of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He was the de facto prime minister. Atalji used to say, "Aap Brajesh se baat kar lo." And Brajesh would deal with all the nuts and bolts of decision making. And he said, I would every day inform the Prime Minister kya ho raha hai. He was very powerful, and that was the reason why there was a falling out between Advani and Vajpayee. Because Brajesh became the number 2, in effect. Whereas Advani had been number 2 all along, more than number 2 all along. Narasimha Rao didn't let the right hand know what the left hand was doing. He didn't need a coterie. He didn't need anyone. His principal secretary was there in Verma, but the bureaucrat he relied on to do unconventional jobs was Naresh Chandra. On the nuclear question, on Ayodhya question. VP Singh was also one who considered Indira Gandhi his mentor. He had a few people he talked to, but again didn't rely on a coterie. He walked through the bureaucrats, the system as it was. So I think Manmohan Singh ka to bahut hi, it wasn't a very powerful PMO at all. But Manmohan Singh, I must say one thing, the nature of the model was such that, you see, Sonia Gandhi was chosen, elected as the leader. She transferred the mandate to Manmohan Singh. So in a sense, that power had to be shared for it to work. But where Manmohan Singh should be faulted, and I consider him a weak prime minister, is that he didn't push the envelope enough, because Sonia Gandhi needed him as much as he needed to be prime minister. He could have pushed the envelope on many things, much more.
Neerja ji, my question is, one of the things that people of India are more disappointed with, more than the politicians, I think, is with the media. Is with the media. Can you hear me?
I can hear there's a lot of echo.
Okay. Is this better?
A little better.
Okay. So I'm saying I think the people of India are largely disappointed more than the politicians, I think, with the media. And I don't think we have seen so much of fragmentation and polarization in the media ever before. What is your...
Polarization, no? Have I got you right? Polarization?
Yeah, polarization. So I just wanted your view on the fact that very, very senior journalists now behave like propagandists. And they wear it on their sleeve. And you've been a part of this fraternity for a very long time. So what is your personal view on this complete decimation of this very noble profession?
You know what? Yes, there is polarization in the media. I think the media needs to look at itself and really reflect deeply. That's all I want to say. I understand the pressures and the pulls and what they have to work under. But it needs, we need to look at ourselves more deeply.
I don't, have you ever seen a prime minister like Modi and Shah, where there is a duo which runs the country? Very clear power is being shared between two duos, maybe being shared or not being shared. But I do not recollect any other prime minister who had another person next to him so strong and so much of a...
That's true. You know, there have been many political jodis in India. Sardar Patel and Nehru. I end my book by this very moving story of both of them after Gandhi was assassinated. And I wanted to end on that note because they had deep differences and yet they held together. Had they not held together, how the refugees would have been rehabilitated, constitution crafted, the princely states merged, it would never have happened. If these two men had not walked in step despite the deep differences. So to my mind, it's my most favorite episode, political episode, which I've ended the book on. So that was a political jodi. Vajpayee and Advani was a political jodi. Very fascinating rivals, and yet comrades, they never allowed things to come to the brink. Very different kind of a political jodi. Modi and Amit Shah, it's a very different kind of a jodi. Amit Shah has built the party into an organization that's probably the largest political election machine in the world. I don't think anything like this exists anywhere in the world. And Modi has this appeal. But one word on Amit Shah, you can criticize them for several things. Institutions under pressure, several things. Amit Shah, and I give this example particularly to congressmen. 2013, July, he's given responsibility to build the party in Uttar Pradesh. They know without Uttar Pradesh they can't come to power. 11 months later, he delivers 71 seats from 10 Lok Sabha seats. 11 mahine mein. And I remember Congress leaders, I remember talking to them in the early part of this, 2002, 2003, what about UP? And they'd say, what about UP? How to revive the Congress? And that's what they're saying even today. So Amit Shah is a driven man. He told me, whenever he goes to a place, he reads the district gazetteers. Who are the icons of this area, the small icons of this community? Then you build a temple in their name, you name a railway line in their name. So I'm saying that's not the level at which the Congress thinks at all. So Amit Shah is very, very hardworking. Modi, again, I was thinking, 10 saal ke baad, he remains popular. You can agree or disagree with his politics. Nehru, 52, he was elected. 62, he was losing ground after the Chinese war. Indira Gandhi, 1967, she won. 77, she had become unpopular to be routed. 10 saal mein. Manmohan Singh, at the head of a coalition, 10 saal wo bhi rahe. Congress came down to what, 44 seats. Grand old party of India. And Modi, 1-2% idhar-udhar hoga, but remains by and large popular. I've met people who say, Rajasthan mein, I'm going to vote for Gehlot. Unhone health scheme itna acha kiya hai. Or I'm going to vote for Baghel in Chhattisgarh because look what he's done for the farmers. But badi election mein hum Modi ko denge. Now what percentage will do that, I don't know. That time will tell. But Amit Shah remains Modi's Hanuman. He doesn't call himself as a equal, and yet no other prime minister has allowed somebody that much leeway that you referred to them as Modi Shah. Media mein Modi Shah. So it's a very unique, it is a unique phenomenon. Sorry?
How did Vajpayee in 2004, India shining?
I think Vajpayee himself, they advanced the elections. That was mistake number one. But Advani went with 5-6 other leaders and they did it. And then Pramod Mahajan also sold them the line that India was shining. So they bought that line. And yet I also say to you, the difference was only 8 seats. 8 seatein thi. 5 idhar ho jati to khel badal jata. It was quite close. The Congress was not expecting it. For them, it was a windfall.
I think we can go on endlessly because this is something which we are all we want to hear more about, because the insights which you have are fascinating. But I think we have to bring it to a close. Could I request the President General Shankar Prasad to say a few words, please?
I think, ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me when I say it's been the most fascinating book club meeting we've ever had. And the interesting part is that every single person who's sitting here is politically so well informed, and they have so many questions to ask and so many opinions to give that we could have gone till tomorrow morning. And thank you very much for coming here, taking time out. I know you're very busy with the current elections. You've been touring all these states and you've been abroad. But thank you so much. I think this is a 100th interview you must be doing, or a chat you must be doing on this book. Very kind of you to have come. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we must stand up and say, give her a standing ovation for coming out so openly with it.